So guys, who is Dr. Jose Rizal? Dr. Jose Rizal is the Philippine national hero. His full name is Jose Protasio Mercado Rizal y Alonso Realonda, known as Dr. Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal is born on June 19, 1861 at Calamba, Laguna. And he died on December 30, 1896 at Bagong Bayan, Manila. He is the son of Don Francisco Rizal Mercado and Tudora Alonso. Dr. Jose Rizal is famous with his writings entitled El Filibusterismo and Noli Me Tangere. However, Republic Act No. 1425 or the RIZAL law, this law is mandated to include in the course curricula of all public and private schools, colleges, and universities so that we can know the life, the artworks, and writings of Rizal, particularly the novels, which is the Noli Me Tangere and the El Filibusterismo. Rizal is a great role model to everyone. He created a great history in the Philippines. That is why we honor, respect, and value him for the rest of our lives, knowing that he sacrifices himself for the Philippines or our country for us to be free from Spanish colonization. As we knew, Dr. Jose Rizal entered education in Ateneo Municipal de Manila and earned his degree in Bachelor in Arts 1877 at the age of 16. That is why we are not shocked anymore because Jose Rizal is an intelligent person. That is why he excel in every courses that he take, and that is why he is most popular in every country, and not just in our country but in the whole world. After, Dr. Jose Rizal was enrolled again at University of Santo Tomas, or known as the UST, and took up his preparatory law. And after that, he traveled to Europe to finish his degree in medicine and finish his fourth year at Universidad Central de Madrid, Spain, and earn his licentiate medicine. So, see? Jose Rizal is very intelligent. He is smart. That is why he excel in every courses that he take. Rizal also learned new things by traveling abroad and lived in different countries, including Germany, Hong Kong, Japan, USA, London, and Belgium to study and develop his new skills. And guys, did you know that Dr. Jose Rizal know how to speak 22 different languages? Yes, he did know. And that is why Rizal is very smart and wise in traveling abroad. And that is why he studied well out there to study the different culture and traditions of different countries. So, after Rizal leaving abroad, he returned home in Manila in June 26, 1892, and he was welcomed by the founders of La Liga Filipina and discussed about the organizations. 4 days after the civic organization foundation, Rizal was arrested by the Spanish authorities for 4 grounds and was condemned for deported in the Pitan. Rizal is arrested because of 4 grounds, and that 4 grounds are: first, anti-Catholic and anti-friar books and articles. Second is the possession a bundle of handbills, the Pobres Frailes, in which advocacies were in violation of the Spanish orders. Third is dedicating his novel, The El Filibusterismo, to the three traitors, the Gomborza, known as Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, and for the novel's title page that the only salvation for the Philippines was separation for the mother country, referring to the Spain. And the fourth and the last is criticizing the religion and aiming for its exclusion from the Filipino culture. Because of his foregrounds, he exiled in the Dapitan. So, under the watchful eye of Jesuits and the Spanish governor, so Rizal could reform his wrong beliefs. But Rizal lives his life peacefully in the Dapitan. And what best describes his life in the Dapitan? Simple yet inspiring. Rizal lived in the Pitan in a way that he lives like an ordinary people and inspiring because when he was there, he was able to live his life to the fullest without regrets by living the life while he can. While he was in the Pitan, Rizal built school, hospital, and water system. He also taught farming and worked on agricultural projects such as using abaca to make ropes. In 1896, Rizal was granted leave by then Governor General Blanco after volunteering to travel Cuba to serve as doctor to yellow fever victims. And that was the life of Rizal while he was deported in the Pitan.
Good day everyone, my name is Marvi Anar Galamiton and today I will be discussing Rizal's life and journey during his exile in the Pitan. Rizal arrived in the Pitan late at night and was met by Spanish guards upon his arrival. The Spanish guards then treated Rizal well and were not cruel to him. Now, the one that brought Rizal to the Pitan was a steamer named SS Cebu headed by Captain Delgras. There, Rizal had met two priests, Father Antonio Obac and Father Pablo Pastels. It was in July 1892 when he arrived in the Pitan. When he was exiled, his punishment was that he had to stay there for 4 years under the supervision of Captain Cardo Carnicero. So Captain Carnicero was the politico-military commander of the Pitan, and he was the one who welcomed Rizal upon his arrival. He gave Rizal two options where he should stay. First, will he stay at the convent with Father Antonio Obac? Or second, will he stay at the house of Captain Carnicero? During that night, when the captain and Rizal were talking, Father Obac came. So Father Obac also gave Rizal options if he'd like to stay in the convent. First, he must retract his Masonic and anti-church beliefs. So he should take back everything he said in Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo about his objections to the Catholic Church and the Spanish government. Second and third, he must participate in the church rites and conduct himself as a good Spanish subject and a man of religion. Unfortunately, Rizal did not accept the offer of the priest but chose to live in the house of Captain Carnicero. According to Rizal, the captain is very kind and he did not treat Rizal as a prisoner. Although Carnicero received Rizal as a prisoner, both of them enjoyed each other's company and they become good friends. And because of a well-treatment he has given to Rizal during his birthday, Rizal made him a point. As a return, the captain allowed Rizal to go anywhere as long as within the town of Dapitan only. So in Dapitan, Rizal lived an idyllic life. He was able to build a small clinic and was able to practice his profession of being a doctor and treat the sick people. At first, he had a hard time since he was not with his family and they were not allowed to visit him. It was also mentioned in history that Rizal also bet on the lottery. Captain Carnicero and Rizal betted on the lottery. There was a ship named Butuan and that ship brought the news that Rizal had won the lottery. He won 20,000 pesos and his lottery ticket was 9736. In his share, Rizal built a house, school, and accepted students even without paying tuition. He has only given them a condition, and that is to help in the household chores. The other part of his house was used as his eye clinic. Usually, his patients were from Luzon and Hong Kong. It was also in this place that Rizal treated his mother, Doña Teodora. And lastly, he also built a house for the ladies in his family who can visit him in Dapitan. So earlier, it was mentioned that his family were not allowed to visit him, but with the help of Captain Carnicero, he wrote a letter to the Governor General requesting to allow his mother and sisters to join him in Dapitan, and it was granted. May 4, 1893, Carnicero was replaced by Captain Juan Sitges. So, this Captain Sitges did not want to live with a deportee, therefore, he assigned Rizal to live in the house near the headquarters. He ordered Rizal to appear before him 3 times a week, and a few weeks later, Captain Sitges' attitude changed. He restored the privileges of Rizal enjoyed during Carnicero's term. So while Rizal was in Dapitan, the Catholic Church did not stop convincing him to retract and take back all what he said against the Spanish government and the church. They sent to Dapitan his professor or former professor Ateneo, Father Francisco de Paula Sanchez, to convince Rizal to retract. When we say retraction, it is an act of withdrawing the statement against Spanish government. So, however, Rizal stood pat in his beliefs. While he was in Dapitan, he kept himself busy after acquainting himself with the surroundings. After he began to make improvements, he helped clean up the plaza of Dapitan, and he evenly lit it up at night with coconut oil lamps, since during that time in Dapitan, they don't have any access to electricity. So with the help of Father Sanchez, he also built relief pump of Mindanao near the Dapitan Church. So there was also time for love in Rizal. He fell in love with an 18-year-old Irish girl named Josephine Bracken. She was born in Hong Kong of Irish parents on October 3, 1876. Her mother died in childbirth, and she was adopted by an American engineer, Mr. George Tuffer, who later became blind. So Josephine arrived in Dapitan in February 1895 with George Tuffer. Josephine Bracken is the daughter of George Tuffer, who was one of Rizal's patients. However, George Tuffer did not want Rizal for his daughter. When Rizal and Josephine were already together, he even threatened them that if they would pursue together, he would commit suicide. So later, Josephine sent him back to Manila and placed him under the care of an elderly woman. Tuffer went back to Hong Kong since his eyes were incurable already, while Josephine stayed in Manila and eventually went back to Dapitan. Now, Rizal and Josephine wanted to get married in church, but Father Obak did not allow them. He would allow them under his conditions, that Rizal needs to retract his belief again. But without the benefit of the matrimony, they considered themselves married without the blessings of the church, and they considered themselves married. Relatives and friends of Rizal are opposed and not in favor of Josephine. So why? Because they suspected her. According to them, she might be a spy of the friars. So why did they suspected her? Her stepfather George Tuffer is from Hong Kong, and they heard the news that there is one person in the Philippines named Jose Rizal who is a good doctor, and they visited him and approached to cure George Tuffer's eyes. Knowing the fact that they were foreigners, they need a tour guide. They took a tour guide, and her name was Manuela Orlac. This Manuela Orlac is the reason why the sisters of Rizal suspected Josephine, because Manuela Orlac is very close to the Spanish friars. That is why they concluded that she was a spy. So in addition with this, Spanish's plight for Rizal is evident here. Rizal had many visitors in Dapitan, and one of whom is a spy of the friars named Pablo Mercado, who posed as Rizal's relative. Pablo Mercado's real name is Florencio Namaan. According to some historians, he was sent by the Spaniards to kill Rizal. Others also stated that he was only there to observe and to be a spy of Rizal. Florencio Namaan managed to escape. Another visitor of Rizal was Pio Valenzuela. This Pio Valenzuela was an emissary of Andres Bonifacio, who was sent for a special mission. So during that time, Bonifacio was already the Supremo of the Katipunan. Pio Valenzuela went there to ask for advice on how to launch their plan to revolution against the Spain. They offered to assist Rizal with the help of the Katipunan from escaping Dapitan, but Rizal objected their plan, citing to the following reasons. First, the revolutionaries must have enough arms and weapons to fight the Spaniards and launch a revolution. Second, they must have the support of the rich and middle class since they are capable and have money. They also have more contribute to the supplies of arms and weapons. Third is that the revolution must be led by educated people or ilustrados. And lastly, he also advised to make Antonio Luna as their general and leader of the revolution. So, as we all know, Antonio Luna was a great general during that time. Another thing that Valenzuela asked to Rizal was if he wanted to escape from the Dapitan. But Jose Rizal said he would like to honor his words to the Spaniards. He also added that if he wanted to escape, it will be easy for him to do it, and he would have done it before. Valenzuela asked Rizal again, what if the revolution actually began and Spain would suspect him as the cause? He said that he knows how to take care of himself, and the revolutionaries and Katipuneros should worry the possible consequences of what they do. So by the way, Valenzuela was able to sneak through and enter the Dapitan because of Raimundo Mata. Who is Raimundo Mata? He was also an eye patient whom Valenzuela took with him to be treated with Rizal and managed to sneak into the Dapitan. When Rizal did not agree to their plan, they leave the Dapitan, and unfortunately, Raimundo Mata was not treated. Now, this is for the second trip of Rizal abroad. After a few days, Rizal heard that there was a revolution and an epidemic in Cuba. So he sent a letter to Governor General Ramon Blanco, where he wants to be a volunteer doctor in Cuba. And during that time, the 4-year punishment of Rizal to stay in the Dapitan is over. Rizal stayed in the Dapitan for 4 years, 13 days, and few hours. During his stay there, it turned out that the people of the Dapitan loved Rizal so much that they were also sad when they learned that Rizal was leaving the Dapitan. In fact, Rizal had many contributions during his stay there. Now, Rizal's letter was approved and he was allowed to become a volunteer doctor in Cuba. At midnight on that day, he left aboard the Spain ship. August 6, 1896. Rizal arrived in Manila Bay. Unfortunately, Rizal was not able to leave immediately for Spain since the vessel Island de Luzon already left. Therefore, he was transferred to Spain cruiser Castilla, and he there from August 6 to September 2, 1896. He stayed there for almost a month to wait for the ship going to Spain. It was August 19, 1896, the Katipunan plot a revolution against the Spanish government. How did the assembly find out? It was discovered by Father Mariano Hill with Teodoro Patino. one of the members of the Katipunan betrayed the congregation. So, he told Father Mariano Hill and mentioned about the Katipunan that they planned to overthrow the Spanish rule in the Philippines by means of revolution or bloody war. So it was Teodoro Patino, one of the Katipuneros, mentioned the plan of the Katipunan to Father Mariano Hill. And then Father Hill reported the secret organization to the higher officials. August 26, 1896, Bonifacio and the Katipunan raised the cry of revolution or the sigaw sa Pugadlawin, and it was the beginning of the Philippine Revolution. So this was where the Katipuneros turned their sadulas. In the afternoon of that, Governor General Blanco proclaimed a state of war in the first 8 provinces for rising arms against Spain. So these 8 provinces were Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, Batangas, Laguna, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, and Tarlac. Flag also, we see 3 stars. What it represents? This is a misconception among other Filipinos that when we ask them, what does the 3 stars in the Philippine flag represent? So they would say Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, where in fact, the original and reference of the 3 stars refers to Luzon, Panay, and Mindanao. So maybe because they can say that it was Visayas was because the island of Panay is located in Visayas. So take note that the 3 stars represents the Luzon, Panay, and Mindanao. Now, Rizal received letters from Governor General Blanco, which absolved him from all the blame for the raging revolution. Now, the ship of Rizal arrived. He was transferred to Isla de Panay, which was sailing for Barcelona, Spain. Don Pedro Rojas was one of Rizal's companions. When they arrived in Singapore, he advised to stay and take advantage of the protection of British law because during that time, Singapore was colony of British or England. On September 30, the Isla de Panay had already sailed past Port Said in Egypt and was now sailing in the Mediterranean. Rizal's ship received telegraphic message ordering that Rizal shall be placed under arrest. Bernardino Nozaleda, the Archbishop of Manila, clamored for the arrest of Rizal, who was said to be the spirit of the revolution. So this Bernardino Nozaleda claimed that Rizal was the leader of the Philippine Revolution, so he wanted him to be arrested. On October 3, the Isla de Panay arrived in Barcelona, and Rizal was sent to prison fortress in Montjuic Castle. Upon his arrival in prison, he was interviewed by Despojol and said that he would be shipped back to Manila. On the night of the same day, after the interview, Rizal was taken aboard a column, which was loaded with Spanish troops, sailed for Manila. Rizal's friends, Dr. Antonio Maria Regidor and Sixto Lopez, they exerted all their effort to find a lawyer in Singapore who could help their friend. The attorney they chose was Attorney Hugford. Unfortunately, the Chief Justice Lionel, the judge of Singapore, denied the request. So despite the attempts of Regidor and Lopez to secure a writ of habeas corpus for Rizal in Singapore, Rizal remained in Spanish custody. So, what do you mean by habeas corpus? Habeas corpus means that you may have the body. This is the bring of person to the court to determine if he deserves to be imprisoned. You can question why a person is arrested or why he is imprisoned. Unfortunately, this request was denied because according to Attorney Ford, the writ of habeas corpus was not applicable because the ship that Rizal boarded was owned by the Spain and not covered by Singapore. It was in November 3, 1896, the column arrived in Manila Bay and Rizal was taken to Fort Santiago. And in November 20, 1896, Rizal was brought before a Spanish military tribunal headed by Colonel Francisco Olive. So that ends my report about Rizal's life and journey during his exile in the Pitan. Here's Miss Rodata Toyor to report the trial and death of Rizal.
Trial and death of Rizal. The trial and death of Rizal refers to the legal proceedings and execution of Jose Rizal, a Philippine national hero, who was executed by the Spanish colonial authorities. On November 20, 1896, the assigned judge to summon Rizal was Colonel Francisco Olive. Colonel Francisco Olive is the same person who led a company of soldiers 5 years earlier to eject the tenants of Calamba in Laguna, among them the Rizal family. The preliminary investigation began and a 5-day investigation was conducted. He was blamed for being the leader of the revolution by increasing the people's ideas about rebellion and making illegal organizations. As expected, Rizal was not given the chance to interrogate his witnesses. He was only allowed to choose his lawyer from a list of young Spanish officers who were not into law. He chose Lieutenant Luis Tavel de Andrade. Lieutenant Luis Tavel de Andrade is the first lieutenant of the artillery, brother of Jose Tavel de Andrade, and he is the bodyguard of Rizal. There were two kinds of evidences presented to him during the investigation. These are the documentary and testimonial. There were 15 documents against Rizal and 13 for testimonial. Now, let's go to the 15 documents against Rizal. A letter of Antonio Luna to Mariano Ponce. A letter of Rizal to his family. A letter from Marcelo H. del Pilar to Judato Arellano. A poem entitled Hundiman. A letter of Carlos Oliver to an unidentified person. A Masonic document. A letter signed Di Masalang. A letter of Di Masalang to an unidentified committee. An anonymous and undated letter to the editor of the Hong Kong Telegraph. A letter of Edelfonso Laurel to Rizal. A letter of Rizal Segundo. A letter of Marcelo H. del Pilar to Don Juan A. Tentus. Transcript of a speech of Pinky Ann. Transcript of speech of Tik Tik. And the last is a poem by Laong Laan. Now, let's go to the 13th testimonial. Martin Constantino, Aguido del Rosario, Jose Reyes, Moises Salvador, Jose Dizon, Domingo Franco, Judato Arellano, Ambrosio Salvador, Pedro Soriano Lactao, Dr. Peo Valenzuela, Antonio Salazar, Francisco Quezon, and Timoteo Paez. All efforts were made by Lieutenant Tavel de Andrade to defend Rizal of his innocence, but as obvious as it may have seemed, Rizal was still found guilty. Note that Rizal cited 12 points to prove his innocence. First, Rizal was against rebellion as testified by Peo Valenzuela. Second, no letter consisting of revolutionary elements was addressed to the Katipunan was written. Third, without his consent, the Katipunan used his name as one of the passwords. Fourth, if he was guilty, he could have left the country while in exile. He would not have built a home and would not have bought a parcel of land to put up a hospital in the Petan. Fifth, the revolutionist could have consulted him if he was the leader. Sixth, he did not deny that he wrote the bylaws of the Liga Filipina. But to make things clear, it is a different organization from Katipunan, the former being a civic association and the latter being a revolutionary society. Seventh, after the first meeting of the Liga, the association vanished because of his exile in the Pitan, and it did not last long. Eighth, he had no idea that the Liga was recognized 9 months after. Ninth, if the Liga had a revolutionary purpose, then Katipunan should not have been founded. 10. If the Spanish authorities found his letters offending, it was because on 1890 his family has been persecuted. 11th, he lived a good life in the Petan. The politico-military commander and missionary priest in the province could attest to it. And the last is, the witnesses said that if the speech delivered at Doroteo Ongjunko's house had inspired the revolution, he should be given a chance to confront these persons. If he was in the revolution, the Katipunan should not have an unfamiliar emissary to him in the Pitan. For this, his friends knew that he never promoted violence. So those are the 12 points to prove that Rizal is innocent.
So guys, we're now in Rizal, remaining days and the last farewell. When Rizal heard the court decision, he knew that there will be no chance of changing his fate. At 6 o'clock in the morning of December 29, 1890, Captain Rafael Dominguez read him the official notice of his execution. Rizal spent his last hour by going to the Present Chapel. His mother and sisters visited him on the same day. He then gave them his remaining possessions, reached out for the gas lamp, and gave it to his sister Trinidad and carefully whispered inside. Then Trinidad and his sister Maria got a copy of Rizal's last poem from the lamp. Unfortunately, it was said that on his last days that Rizal was not allowed to embrace his mother. And then guys, when he was in prison, he took time to write his last letter to his best friend, Blumentritt. The last poem he composed was the longest he ever written. It was entitled My Ultimo Adios, or My Last Farewell. And then this is the interpretation of the poem composed was the longest he ever written, entitled My Ultimo Adios, or My Last Farewell. First stanza. Farewell, dear fatherland, clime of the sun, Carys, pearl of the Orient seas. Our Eden lost, gladly now I go to give thee this faded life's best. And were it brighter, fresher, or more blessed, still would I give it thee, nor count the cost. Interpretation. These are the words of one about to die for his country. He expresses no regret but only gladness, knowing that in giving his life, he is giving his country the greatest gift any citizens could offer. Second stanza. On the field of battle, mid the frenzy of fight, others have given their lives without doubt or heed. The blaze mothers, not cypress or laurel of lily white, scaffold or open plain combat, or martyrdom's plight. He is ever the same to serve our home and country's need. Second stanza interpretation. Here Rizal says that it does not matter where one dies, But why candies, and to what purpose? Whether it's scaffold, open field, conflict, or martyrdom's site, all that hold the same. So, third stanza. I die test when I see the dawn break through the gloam of night to herald the day, and if color is lacking my blood, thou shalt take, poured out the need for thy dear sake to die with its Kamsan, the walking ring. Third stanza interpretation. The meaning of the first and the second lines. He employs the visual senses in his poetic use of color, and then in the third and fourth lines adds the bright red tint of his bluid to the scene and gilds it with golden sunlight. The use of these devices ignites passion in the render as it felt 100 once more so in the writer, even without explicit use of words signifying feeling. Fourth stanza. My dreams when life first opened to me, my dreams when the hope of youth beat high, were to see their love face, O gem of the Orient Sea, from gloom and grief, from care and sorrow free, no blush on thy brow, no tear in thy eye. Interpretation. Since his childhood, even as other children dream of his childish things, Rizal dream of seeing his country free, esteem and with heed bid high. Fifth stanza of the poem. Dream of my life, my living and burning desire, all had Christ the soul that is now to take flight. All hail, and sweet it is for thee to inspire, due for the sake that thou mayst aspire and sleep in the bosom's eternity's long night, if over my grave some day dawn seest grow. Interpretation. He here showers her with praise. He is life fancy. He is ardent and passionate desire. He shouts, Hail! As many would do their God. He says in the third line that it is sweet to fall so that his country may acquire fullness, and then continues on in the succeeding lines. To thee me give you light. Wholest joy does not end in the act of dying, but contents beyond the grave, where he shall sleep in his country's mystic, and through eternity, as one dies for God, Rizal dies for country, and as one looks forward to heaven, Rizal heaven in thesis. A task lies in being hurted in the land of his ancestors. Sixth stanza. In the grassy sod, a humble flower drew it to lips and kissed my soul, so while I may feel on my brow in the cold tomb below. The touch of the tenderness, thy breath's warm power. And this is the interpretation of the sixth stanza. In this stanza, Rizal likens his soul to that of a humble flower amidst thick grasses. The use of this comparison says a lot about how Rizal sees himself timid, simple, humble, surrounded by the unrelating forces of society. He imagines that after his death, he will live on his bosoms of his motherland and never cease to enjoy her love, which he begs her to express with a kiss. Then, seventh stanza. Let the moon beam over me soft and serene. Let the dawn shed over me its radiant flashes. Let the wind with sad lament over me keen, and if on my cross a bird should be seen, let it tell there its hymn of peace to my ashes. Interpretation. Rizal loves for nature. It's again depicted in this
next 4 lines. It is interesting that he enumerates the moon, the dawn, the wind, and a barn to pay homage to his graves, yet does not mention close friends or specific people. Perhaps it is a simple image of his reunion with nature that he wants to bring to mind. Perhaps it is also an expression of the loneliness and isolation that he has felt and continues in feel of his fight for freedom. Then, 8th stanza. Let the sun draw the vapors up to the sky, and heavenward in purity bear my tardy protest. Let some kind soul or ear my ultimately fate sigh, and in the still evening a prayer be lifted on high. From thee, O my country, that in God I may best. Interpretation. The mention here of a friend is the closest he gets to accompany, and the mention of God in the 4th line is the closest he gets to praying for a spiritual heaven. That RIZAL beseeches his country to pray that his soul may rise in God, in his line with the Roman Catholic belief that all men are sinners unto salvation to be carried and cannot be determined before the grave. 9th stanza. Pray for all those that hapless have died, for all who have suffered the unmeasured pain, for our mothers that bitterly their woes have cried, for widows and orphans, for captives by virtue tried, and then for thyself, that redemption thou mayst again. The interpretation. In these lines, he gives his motherlands a list of the things he wishes her to pray for. He remembers all of the martyrs who have suffered the same fate as he will, who have died for their countries, the mothers, wives, and children they have left behind, who suffer no less for being chastened. He also, in a hopeful closing note, asks her to pray for himself. 10th stanza. And when the dark night erupts, the graveyard around, with only the dead and their vigil to see, break not my repose of the mystery profound. And perchance thou mayst hear a sad hymn resound. T is, O my country, raising a song unto thee. Interpretation. Clearly, RIZAL has not imagined that monument would eventually be built over his grave, and has pictured his final resting place as a humble cemetery where he shall even after death sing a devotion for his motherland. 11th stanza. And even my grave is remembered no more, unmarked by never a cross nor stone. Let the plough sweep through it, the spade tore it o'er, that my ashes may carpet early floor. Interpretation. In this next stanza, RIZAL wishes to the heap load by man, when his grave is no longer remembered and be scattered, as he returns to be part of the dust that covers the land, and he had died for what actually happens in real life. Thou, it is an uncanny parallel. On December 30, 1896, on the day of his execution, RIZAL remains were buried in unmarked grave in the Paco cemetery years later. However, his remains were exhumed, and on December 30, 1912, they were out to the final resting place in the base of the monument of Luneta. Before to nothingness, at last they are blown. Then will oblivion bring to me no care, as over thy valves and plains I wept, dropping and glints in the space and the air. With color and light, with song and lament, I fare, ever repeating the path that I keep, my fatherland, adore that sadness to my sorrow lends. Beloved Filipinas, hear now my last goodbye. I give thee all my parents and kindred and friends, for I go where no slave before the oppressor bends, where fate can never heal, and God reigns e'er on high. And this is the last interpretation of the poem My Last Farewell, written by Jose Rizal. Here we come to a more submissive yet hopeful tone. Rizal bids a farewell to his one great love, his country, and yet looks forward to being with God where there are no staves, tyrants, or hangmen. Farewell to you all for soul to away friends of my childhood and the home. Dispose, give thanks that I rest from the wearisome day. Farewell to thee, to sweet friend that lighten my way. Beloved creatures, all farewell in death, there is rest. To close, Rizal now finally mentions specific people, parents, brothers, friends of his childhood. And in other translation, the fourth line reads, "Adjust with tender foreigner, my scent, my happiness," which historians have interpreted to allude to Josephine Bracken, the daughter of an Anglo-Saxon father and a Chinese mother, whom many believe, although it is a frequently challenged, he secretly married an hour before his death. Our interpretation, my ultimo adios, or my last farewell. In this poem, he shows that after the hardships and sacrifices, we will meet freedom. Being a hero is not having a power like being invisible, lightning, or etc. A hero is a person who fights for his or her family, friends, and loved ones. My ultimo adios was Rizal poetic tribute, his last farewell to the country he loved so much. Rizal died without seeing the dawn of a new day. Yet, he did see the dawning of a new democracy in our country. It was his last farewell, a farewell of the old system to tyranny and to oppression. And that's the poem expressed Rizal to our country.
And so, on Rizal's remaining days and the last farewell. So, on December 30, 1896, Rizal woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning to hear Mass and confess his sins. And then at 4 a.m., he read the book entitled Imitation of Christ by Thomas A Kempis. Then afterwards, done personal steps, Rizal at 5 a.m. in the morning ate his last breakfast. The Loca self-boiled eggs based on Asuncion Lopez Rantog and 3 hard-boiled egg based on Ambet Ocampo. So, afterwards, during the walk of Rizal was talking to press when passed by the Ateneo.
So when Jose Rizal walked to Bagumbayan or Dapitan, Dr. Jose Rizal passed the Ateneo and he talked to his priest. He said that, "What a beautiful morning. On days like this, I used to talk a walk here with my sweetheart." So, pasabot niya si Rizal na before, sa una, wala pa'y gubot, anhi nganing orasaha, anhi mga panahon na sa una, I used to talk here with my sweetheart, sa iyang minamahal. So, parang nagbalik tanaw si Dr. Jose Rizal ng panahon na sadya okay pa, na di pa siya apat yun. Nagbalik tanaw na sadta, way back on December 30, 1896, someone wearing a black suit, black pants, black bowler hat, and white shirt with his arms tied behind his back was Dr. Jose Rizal. So he walked to Bagumbayan at 6:30 in the morning of December 30, 1896. He walked along with his defense lawyer, Andred, and two his priests named March and Villa Clara. And then he shook hand with his lawyer and bade a farewell to the friars. And then behind and then in front of them there were advance guard of armed soldiers, and behind him were another group of military men. So the sound of a trumpet signaled the start of the march, and the muffled sound of drums served as the musical score of the walk. So, ni-signal na ang trumpet. It means that it starts na nga pati na si Dr. Jose Rizal. Used to the muffled sounds of drums serve as a musical score of the walk. And then, sama sa unsa ta today, diba? We're like having a conversation with friends, chika, marites dire. Sa una, ingana pod. Naapay mga people nga makilig makichismis nga unsa na nahitabo nga na there are people were lined up in the streets. Some were sympathetic to him, and others, especially Spaniards, gusto jud nga wanted nothing less than to see Jose Rizal die. Jose Rizal requested the commander that he be shoot facing the firing squad, but it was denied. So, Dr. Jose Rizal ni-request sa commander nga dili siya ay gusto niya na atubangon ang mga firing squad while siya posilon. But it was denied. Tawat ang request ni Dr. Jose Rizal sa commander officer. And then, he just requests to be shot not in head but in back near on his heart, not in kneeling position and without the traditional blindfold. So, ni-request na lang siya instead of i-face niya ang firing squad, he just requests to dili siya is-shoot sa head, but instead sa likod, near on his heart, nga dili siya munil position without traditional blindfold, hindi siya tabunan ang iyang mata. So, military physician Pilipero was Castillo checked his pulse and saw it normal. And then the priest offered him to kiss a crucifix, but he refused. The priest nag-offered ni Dr. Jose Rizal a crucifix to kiss, but he turned his head away and silently prepared for his death. Wa niya dawat ang gihatag sa pare. Instead nga iyang tuyok ang iyang ulo o silently nga gi-prepare niya ang iyang kamatayon. And then even though crowded na ang lugar, daghan ay tao, si Dr. Jose Rizal, iyang gi-face gihapon ang mga tao, even though patiyo na siya. Some people even saw that Rizal smile from time to time. And sa oras na nga patiyo na si Dr. Jose Rizal, with the command, the 8 Filipino executioners, with another row of the Spaniard Guardia Civil, aimed to his back. Ningon og, isyagit og, preparado apunten. Ningon. And then, si Rizal, well, apat yun na siya, nisinggit pod si Rizal. Isyagit siya, og ningon og, na siya giheld a cries of 2 words. Nga siya na, consumatum est. Pasabot, it is finished. Simultaneously with his final effort to twist his bullet piece body halfway around. Then, silence was all over. Sa panahon nga, patay na si Dr. Rizal when gipusil siya sa likod. And then, unfortunately, ang captain did not keep his words of not shooting his head. Na isa sa iyang mga tauhan iduol og gave Rizal a terra de gracia, or the mercy shot in the head to make sure that Rizal is dead. So, wa gi-keep sa commander officer ang iyang promise ni Dr. Jose Rizal nga dili siya pusilon sa head. Naa siya gisugo na isa niya sa mga tauhan nga gi-make sure jud nga si Dr. Rizal nga patay na. Gipusil siya sa So, mao na ang picture sa katong gipusil na si Dr. Jose Rizal. Nagtalikod siya sa firing squad. And then, ang Spaniards nag-shouted kanang nga bragad sila kanang nanginggit nga nalipay. Ningon og Viva España, muerte a los traidores. But the crowd did not respond. And so on. So that's all, and thank you for watching.